who's a pitch hitter tonight because we had only 3 speakers. And Tim, in a moment of sublime imagination, suggested the title, What to Say When You Don't Know What to Say. Is that right? All right, let's welcome Tim.
Have you ever volunteered for something without really thinking it through? You get up there and you say, sure, I can do that, no problem. You get up there and all of a sudden you're thinking like, has that happened? I'm going through a little bit of that right now. But it happens. People will get you and all of a sudden you don't know what to say. Experienced that? Felt that, a boss, somebody, you're not quite sure how to answer things. Well, if you've ever had that happen, thinking about a time when it happened right now, there actually is something easy you can do about it. I didn't know about this until actually Toastmasters. Going through Toastmasters, talking to people and table topics, working through table topics and talking to past masters and table topics, help me understand what you can do in those situations when you don't know what to say. So today you're going to learn about a 3-step process. Simple, easy to use anywhere, anytime. You don't know what to say? Step you through, it'll open you up, and you'll learn about the biggest mistake most people make when they're trying to think of what to answer. First step, if you don't know what to say, if you don't do this from the very beginning, you're dead. And so many people do this all the time. They start out and they just kill themselves at the beginning. Simple change, once you do this, then things start to flow. And that is first thought, best thought. First thought, best thought. What happens is, and maybe you've experienced this, sort of followed it in your mind, you think about something and then quickly you censor yourself. Ever done that? Chris knows what I'm talking about. You think about it and you think, I can't answer that way. You run a couple ideas back in your mind. No, that's not good. And a couple more ideas, you go, no. And you've kind of convinced yourself, you got this mental conversation going in your head, you've actually said something, but what really the other person's experiencing is you saying, and that doesn't work. Because they can't read your mind. So first thought, best thought. Whatever the first thought that comes into your head, that's the best thought. Let's say somebody happens to say to you, something like, how does Washington, D.C. politics affect you? Something like that. That's a challenge. You talk about politics. What do you say? What's the right thing? What's the wrong thing to say? The thing is to say whatever. And to be honest. Maybe question about guns. Concerned about guns. Maybe you just finish your taxes and you're starting to think about those house payments and how much deductions you get or don't get. Maybe you just think, I didn't want to think about it. Whatever it is, it's that first thought that comes to your mind. So first thought, best thought. After you get out the first thought, you're going pretty well. But the challenge is some people don't take the next step. It's a simple step. Your mind will help you take it. If you don't take it, you get stuck. Once you take it, then things start to flow. And that is simply to think of similar thoughts. Your mind will help you here if you let it. Once you get into one thought, you find your mind starts to think of different thoughts. Found that happening, Peggy? You think it's something, your mind just starts flowing? It's all right. Just let a little bit of that out. Don't necessarily let everything you're thinking out, but just a little bit of it. Let the flow out. So if you're thinking about guns, think about, hey, it's a Second Amendment right. It's a very important thing. It's an issue that's going to affect you. You're thinking about your house. Okay, it's the house. I got all these things I was going through and making sure that the house payments are right. I wanted to get a deduction. Whatever it is, it's that similar thoughts, those similar thoughts, and just let your mind go. So often what happens at this stage is people censor themselves again. Even if they start speaking, by the time they get to the second step, they'll censor themselves again, and then they'll get stuck. You have that happen? You start to say something, seems like it's going, you think, you gotta back up and try something else. Has it ever worked? I've never had that work. Once you get going, then you try to back. That isn't what I meant to say. And they say, well, why don't you say what you mean to say now? Whatever it is, let it go. Let it flow. And then if you get in that situation where you're really sure it's not what I meant to say, then it comes the final step. The final step is something that some people do too early, at the very beginning, and they skip the similar thoughts part. But the final step is simple. It'll happen naturally, just like a similar thought. So after you get the first thought, best thought, similar thoughts, next thing is just related thoughts. What thoughts relate to that? So if you've got guns, you're talking about guns, that naturally brings the issue to Constitution and constitutional issues. Constitutional judgment, Supreme Court, you can go from there if you want to. By that time, they might have a lot of people listening to you, but if you want to talk about that subject, you can. Talk about housing, you can talk about your own house. How much effort you put into it, time you put into it. And if you just, to that point, you say, I don't really like to listen to politics, you know, I hear it on NPR, you turn off and talk about, but NPR's other good things on too, instead of that. Talk about those things. It's those related thoughts. Those related thoughts that come in, and that's how the conversation flows. So if you're ever in a situation where you don't know what to say, simple three-step process. Use any time, anywhere, any when. First step is to go with your first thought, best thought. Trust yourself. That first thought's not going to get any better if you keep waiting for it. You'll let it get out. Then similar thoughts. Think of the thoughts that relate to that. Use those thoughts, let them flow, and then finally, related thoughts. What are the thoughts that kind of are similar to that, but can take the conversation in a whole different way? You follow that three-steps approach, you suddenly realize you aren't scared of those conversations. You don't run away if people look like they're going to ask you a question. You can get up in front of people at pretty short notice and say something. Simple three-step process, and you start to enjoy being on stage, and you step out of your comfort zone. Whatever you do, just remember, first thought, best thoughts, and speak up.